Cool. I think we're live. So thanks everyone for joining. For people who joined early, you may have heard me and Igor talk about this. We decided to skip the call in January because we didn't have a ton of update over the holidays. So this ends up being the first call of the year. Hopefully you had a good start of the year in January. We're already everybody seems to be surprised, including myself, that we started the second month. So welcome. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for people that are listening in on live stream as well. So quick reminder, for those of you who attended any of our events, whether it's workshops or monthly calls, we do like to remind people that we do have a community code of conduct, like good open source projects. If you want to look at the full code, take a look at it in our repo, and there's a email alias there as well. Hopefully you won't need to ever use that. But so what we'll discuss today, typical agenda that we start off with several community news. We have some exciting ones that we want to go over today. And as we typically do in a new quarter, for a lot of businesses, including Cube, we start our fiscal year in February. So this is our first quarter of the 2024 fiscal year. So we'll give an update on what we accomplished. I think we have 4 epics for Q4. We'll talk about how we did with what we set out to do, and then what we're planning to work on in the next 3 months. If you have any questions, feel free to, you don't have to wait until the end. Feel free to type them in, or you can just unmute yourself and let us know if you have any questions. Cool. Moving right along with community news, we like to start off with a celebration and a happy announcement. So in case you didn't know, we have what we call Cube Hero that you'll see on our community page. These are people who made sustained contributions, whether that's, contributing user stories, contributing code, or helping other community members on Slack. So we like to recognize these group of people who made significant contributions to our community. And the latest edition, we haven't added ranks to our heroes rank since last year, about a year ago, when we added Bruce. I'd like to welcome Ryan. If you're on our Slack channel, you've probably seen Ryan being very active in a lot of the conversations. I've been pretty amazed and really thankful, Ryan, for helping other people get started, especially. So I want to pause here. Ryan, you're on the call. If you want to quickly introduce yourself, we obviously have your bio on our community page, but feel free to introduce yourself and say hi to the rest of the folks.
Yeah, good to meet everybody. I know I've chatted with a bunch of folks so far on the channel or on Slack. I'll look forward to continue to meeting more people and love being part of the community.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks again. And Ryan, you're, like we have in our bio, in case people don't know where Maryland is, it's on the eastern coast of the US. But been, I think I first met you on Zoom call, Ryan, probably like April or May last year, and you've been helping us ever since. So once again, well-deserved recognition. We're just announcing it sort of publicly, but you and I have been having conversations about different aspects, including how we improve our Slack channels over the past month or so. So definitely appreciate it, and look forward to continuing working with you. Cool. So yeah, I'm excited to see our heroes rank grow. We started off with like 3 people almost 2 years ago when I first joined, and then like every year it seems like we're adding at least 1 person. So definitely want to see growth in the hero rank as our community is growing. So moving right along, sorry, having little challenges with flipping slides. So one of the, as I alluded to, we've been having a lot of discussions internally, both myself and Igor, and also with Heroes, to how we improve our community channels, particularly on Slack. We've had tremendous amount of growth, because I remember it wasn't too long ago, Igor and I were celebrating, we have 2,000 people on Slack, and now we're I think even north of 7,500, like getting close to like 8,000. So just from a numbers standpoint, it definitely grew. And as community grows and evolves, there's a need for optimizing our channels as well. So wanted to make a few changes to a couple of channels. One of them, I don't know, a lot of people knew about this. We created a discourse forum about a year and a half ago, and the volume of interaction there has been pretty low. That's one. And the other reason why we wanted to create a discourse forum for Cube was to preserve a lot of our conversations that happen on Slack, a lot of tips and tricks type of conversations, and we've been exporting them. What we realized was that the best thing to do, probably rather than exporting them to discourse, is to do a better job of sort of adding them to our documentation. So we'll be, I've been regularly meeting with our customer success team, for example, to see and identify conversation that we probably want to preserve, so we don't lose them after 90 days. So rather than exporting to a forum that's not frequently visited by a lot of people, we decided the best place to store those conversations is our documentation. So currently, the forum is in the read-only mode. So you can still see like old discussions if you want to find things, but you just can't make any posts. But we'll probably officially shut it down after this transition period where it's read-only in the next month or so. So that's one. I don't think it'll impact a whole lot of people, to be honest, because like I said, the traffic hasn't been that heavy. The more like irrelevant changes for a lot of people is continuing to improve our conversation on Slack. Couple of things. Igor has done a lot of these, like rename some of the channels so that it's more descriptive. Like I think it used to be just called Cube Store, but now it's called Cube Store and Caching, so that we just have a lot of caching conversations in general, not just on Cube Store. And we also added some new channels that are relevant to particularly our core features, like data modeling. And then there's been a lot of questions on deployment, so we call them hosting and deploy. One of the reasons why we're introducing these new channels is that some of the feedback we got from a lot of people, including the heroes, is that 90% or whatever, a huge number of conversations are happening in general channel. And then you have to sort of skip through a lot of conversations that you're not necessarily interested in. For example, if there's a question on BigQuery, as an example, like if you're not using BigQuery, there's no reason for you to necessarily read that. So you end up having to sort of skip through and scan through conversations in general. So wanted to introduce new channels where those discussions can take place. And as we'll talk about in the next slide, we'll also be a little bit more diligent about moving conversations to the right channels using a tool that we discovered, so that general channel just doesn't become where all conversations sort of take place. So that's so you've probably seen this already. You may have noticed them. Like I alluded to, we'll be moving or actually copying conversations from general to appropriate channels. So we'll do that. We'll be a little bit more diligent about doing this. And there's a new an app that Slack developed called React.js Channeler. So if we see a conversation that's better, that's a good candidate to move to a different channel, you just add an emoji that we chose, this wind emoji, like we thought that was appropriate for Cube Store and caching. So if we see a conversation in general that's related to pre-aggregations, we'll somebody like me or Igor will add that emoji, and then the conversation will be copied to a different channel. We won't do this for all the channels. Obviously, we'll start with like four of them, like kube storing, caching, data modeling, database, and hosting and deploy. So I'll detail, I'll have more details regarding like different channels and which emojis we'll use in a blog post that's going out hopefully by tomorrow. But this is something we'll be doing in the next few months, and then we'll be also adding reminders, like when we see a conversation on, for example, on pre-aggregations in general, we'll be providing gentle nudge to continue the conversation in kube storing caching channel as an example. So look out for upcoming blog posts. We'll outline these in more detail. The other thing, this is probably a little bit more important, we'll be doing this in the next few weeks, is we'll be making changes to the general channel itself. I mean, first of all, we'll create a different channel called advice and questions, where your general technical questions could be posted. I mean, for example, if you don't know, which channel your particular question needs to be placed, the advice and questions could be a general channel that you can use going forward. And we'll also be renaming the general channel to announcements and news. The reason for us doing this, I mean, you probably know, we have an announcement channel where we make general announcements about upcoming events. Unfortunately, what's been happening is that at least several times last year, we noticed like solicitation type of messages or announcements being posted. And the general channel could be is the only channel in the free tier where we can restrict who can make posts. So I mean, that's the reason for making these changes in terms of putting restrictions on who can make posts on the new channel, and also renaming them. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Like I said, we'll have more details on the blog post, but people that are on the call, I just want to give people a heads up. And Igor, I think you added a slide here as well, but let me know if I missed anything. I think I kind of went through this a little fast, but go ahead. I'll let you jump in here as well.
Yeah, there's actually a next slide that I would like to talk about. So if you can please transition there, that would be great. Yeah, and hopefully that would provide a less serious, more playful note to this whole conversation around improving our community channels. So yeah, this is a screenshot, like a real screenshot of the message that I've posted a few minutes ago, maybe half an hour ago, to the announcement channel on our Slack. And as you can see about the message here, that we've added some automation or more some magic to our Slack community. So every time you mention a data tool of your preference, a Superset or ThoughtSpot or Power BI or Redshift, whatever, the bot would come and just react to your message with an appropriate emoji, custom emoji reaction, right? So yeah, maybe it'll make it more fun to post, and also it'll make it easier to see what tools belong to each conversation, to each thread. Well, we won't. The bot wouldn't do this in the messages inside the thread, so it's not like every message is tagged, but but on the high level, that will be happening. So this is definitely a very minor update, and but I hope that you folks would like it, and if you'd like to see this in action and you're still not in our community Slack, feel free to join us at Slack.cube.dev. And probably this is a point where we can wrap up our updates to the community channel. So stay tuned for the further updates. Also stay tuned for the upcoming blog post, where we'll outline those changes and explain them in more details. And having said that, probably we can move on to the events part of this call.
Yeah. And then obviously, I went through a few things pretty quickly. I mean, if you have any questions or concerns, I mean, reach out to me or Igor with questions or any feedback that you look to provide. Obviously, this is, as community grows, this is ever evolving. If there are certain things that we realize it was an appropriate thing to do, then we'll make necessary adjustments. So we'll move on to events. The first one's really quick. I mean, I think I talked about this already in December. Pavel had a presentation at PrestoCon in early December. Back then, we didn't have the recording. This actually just became available a few weeks ago. So if you are curious as to what the presentation was like, the slides and the recordings available on our events page. So please go ahead and check them out. It's not a long presentation. It's about 15 minutes, so it should be pretty quick to consume. And then I think rest of it, the other two events, Igor, I'll turn things over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So for this one, I'll just say that we had a really cool Church.js community meetup online recently in late January. This is a meetup that we helped the Church.js community to organize. So as some of you probably know, Church.js is a charging library, and it's actually the most popular charging library in the world on the front end. So when you're building embedded analytics experiences on the front end, well, which involves eventually visualizing the data on the front end, chances are your team will be picking Church.js as a tool of choice. So we always observed a very high intersection of their application developer part of Cube community with Church.js community. Yeah, and I see that we have representatives of both these communities on this call. That's cool. That's why we decided that we just help this happen. And I think the first meetup, it was a blast. We had the lead maintainer of Church.js, Evert, presenting a little bit on the history of Church.js, and also which is super great, and also about the roadmap that's ahead of Church.js. And also we've got Peter, who explored a really, I would say, classic use case for data visualization, and Peter has shown how that can be built with Church.js. So if you're by any chance are interested in data viz on the front end, or if you'd like to learn more about Church.js, feel free to watch some recording and slides. And the good news are that the next instance, the second instance of this meetup is going to happen soon. So stay tuned for the updates. Hopefully the event page will appear on Cube's website, later this week or early next week. So, and as always, you could expect, some thoroughly prepared, really great content there. So stay tuned and feel free to RSVP once the event page is there. That's all for this meetup. And I'll probably quickly talk about the next workshop that's already available and has been available for quite some time in our events page. So this is the workshop related to the migration from Redis, and it was actually rescheduled. So we initially put this with another date that was late January, but decided to put it forward a little bit. So it's going to be happening on March the 1st. The idea behind this workshop is that we'd like to dive deeper into an architectural change that's going to happen in Cube. So historically, as you probably know, we've been observing what's Cube for quite some time already. Historically, Redis has been a vital part of the production deployments of Cube, because it is used as a in-memory cache and also as a query queue to coordinate the work of multiple Cube API instances and also the Cube's refresh workers. So just to put it simple, Redis is vital currently, is vital to ensuring that the Cube production deployment, can scale under load and can properly distribute the load over the different nodes in the Cube cluster. But well, it's the community feedback that we were getting over the course of last 2 years, and also different issues that were raised on our GitHub repository. They and also the conversation that we've had with a lot of community members, they just revealed that there are some drawbacks to this kind of setup. Well, we have a blog post that details that, and you can find a link to the blog post on the event page. But I will shortly. It's just not fun to be running highly available Redis clusters in production. So it's not like it's enough for you to run a single node. You have to run like 6 of them, and then properly configure them and make sure that you actually know what you're doing. And also there was some kind of engineering penalty for the Cube team to be actually supporting all of this, and that complicated the code, that complicated the implementation. So we decided to take another approach, and that approach is just to be reusing the storage that we already have, and that is Cube Store, right? So Cube Store, which is currently being used as a long-term storage for the pre-aggregation data, it now supports storing the short-living cache, so in-memory cache data, and also it now supports storing the queue of queries being processed by different API nodes that Cube has. So it is now suitable to use Cube Store in place of Redis, and this would greatly simplify the setup. It would also help make sure that your production deployments of Cube, they're highly available and reliable under heavy load. So please register for the workshop. I'll be showing how to transition from Redis to Cube Store. I'll be showing how everything works under the hood, how it worked before and how it's gonna work now, and show you how to actually approach this transition. So it's gonna be very technical but fun. So please feel free to RSVP to this event as well.
Cool. Thanks, Igor. Yeah, I think we forgot to update the image there because it still has the old date, but our bad. Like, I'll update it before we upload the slides. And and I think I notified people who had originally registered for the January date, but I think none of them had issues, so they understood that why we had to sort of move this to early March. But yeah, looking forward to this. Cool. As noted, just wanted to provide a quick roadmap updates, and for those of you that are joining our monthly call for the first time, at the beginning of each quarter, we not only present like the upcoming roadmap, but we do a recap of like a previous quarter's roadmap. So our Q4 was November, December, January. It was a little challenging, as it always is in Q4 because of the holidays. Like, there's a capacity is reduced by at least a couple of weeks. So we originally had like 4 epics that we had planned. Replacing Redis, that Igor just talked about. That was one of the major one, and that took a lot of effort from our engineers. making various SQL API improvements. I mean, these two are the epics. I need to update the status here, but these are pretty much done. I'll mark them as done after the call. And if you're curious as to our roadmap, these are all public. You can go to our repo and go under projects, and you should be able to see the details and all the epics there. So you not only see the epics, but also a lot of the merge requests that got merged or related to these epics. So obviously the ones that says Cube SQL, these are related to replacing Redis with Cube Store, and there are others that says like a Cube SQL that are related to like a SQL API improvements. So take a look at this if you want to look at all the details. Because of this sort of a short quarter that we had in Q4, a couple of epics that we weren't able to tackle. One is read-only drivers and improved configurations. This will just simply move to Q1, as you'll see in the next slide. But yeah, feel free to take a look at our projects. You can also look at our previous roadmaps as well. I mean, stretching back to like a 2020. Where we've been publishing quarterly roadmaps. So I mean, take a look at those, and you can get a sense of like what we've done in the past couple of years. Igor, did you have anything to add, or like? No, we're good.
Not necessarily. Okay, I think. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me move on here. So Q1. So again, let me actually click on this so people can see this. So this is where you'll see the roadmap. Like I mentioned, the read-only drivers, improved configurations are sort of just transferred over to Q1. And if you're curious, like if you want to look at the epics in more detail, what do we mean by like configuration? So things like adding date ranges, dropping requirement for selecting a default data source, especially if you have a multi-tenancy setup. So these are a few of the ideas that we're trying to implement, but unfortunately, we sort of had to move this on to the current quarter. So hopefully you'll get more updates. And the third one that we're adding, we're calling it the orchestra. Sorry, I'm having a hard time presenting words today. Orchestrator API, continuing on our API work. So things like Prefect and Airflow, we want to support. So for whatever workflow management tool that you use. So if you want to sort of update the pre-aggregations, for example, from Prefect, you'll be able to do this. So there's already a PR that's been merged related to Prefect. So I noticed that I think this was just merged like last week. So the work is already well in progress. But we want to, I think, launch the whole feature once we have the Airflow feature, Airflow integration done specifically. So stay tuned for this. We'll, obviously when we have, important features completed, we'll have a blog post and documentation updates. There might be questions here. Let me see what's on chat.
I'll just quickly chime in here. Yeah, about the very last item. I think this orchestrator API, it's really going to be a very interesting update, because just as you said, Ray, it would enable support for Airflow, Prefect, Dexter, and other tools alike. But what I think is the most important thing here, that it would allow to trigger updates to Cube and what to the data that Cube serves, and everything down there, the data pipeline, based on what's happening upstack in your pipeline, right? So right now, for example, if you need to rebuild pre-aggregations, you can schedule that and run periodic updates. You can also have arbitrary SQL expressions that basically control the freshness of your pre-aggregations and update them based on those expressions. But this is I would say custom to Cube, right? So this is what you need to configure inside Cube, and you should be aware of how to do this, which is a good option. But having Cube orchestrated as a part of your pipeline, well, I think this is more what the data practitioners like you are used to, right? So having Cube conform to how things happen in your data pipeline, that's a good thing. That's why I'm so excited about this update. And yeah, just as Ray said, stay tuned for their blog post with the details of this feature. It's going to be interesting, I guess.
Cool. Yep. So yeah, so obviously looking forward to all these epics in Q1, and all these epics are basically issues. So if you want to, provide other suggestions or have comments, I mean, feel free to add your comments here, and then we do take a look at them. So like all good open source communities, these roadmap items are all public issues. So any suggestions or feedback you have, even after the call or after listening to the recording, feel free to go in there and let us know what you think. So I think that's about it. So it's a sort of a shortish call, I guess, to begin the year. Yeah, I mean, feel free to register for the workshop that's coming up in a few weeks. And yeah, I saw a comment here on the live stream. There's a suggestion on the workshop for setting up Cube Store. So Igor, maybe that's something maybe we'll have a dedicated workshop in Cube Store in the future, or maybe we'll have a tutorial. Yeah, or a tutorial, right? So thank you Varun for suggestion on YouTube. So we'll definitely add that to our queue. All right, so I mean that's about it. Some fun community updates. I mean, look for the blog post that should be going out tomorrow on Slack changes, and hopefully we'll get to see you in the workshop in a few weeks. And have a good rest of your day. And thanks again, Igor, for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and see you at the next community call as well as their other workshops.